All right. Hi, everybody, and good morning. Good morning here from Finland. I have to get the frogs out a bit. I trust I am recording, and Brett or Joe, would you be so kind as to record because I'm a little in question here.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I think I am. Well, all right. We are continuing our work with the science of triangles. Now, when we have our Ask program and Tuija leads these meditations, we get into the more practical work of actually doing our triangles together. And of course, you have the everyday possibility of linking up with your co-workers and helping to create the triangles of love and goodwill and the triangles of light. And beneath the goodwill work in the world, these triangles exist. And DK has said a startling thing, that the success of the goodwill work will be dependent upon the strength of the triangles network. So it's very, very responsible work, which must go on, as he says. It must go on. But from the academic point of view, we are also looking at his descriptions of triangles in our etheric body, our planet, our solar system, our local cosmos. And that's what this little series is all about, the science of triangles. It's working in esoteric astrology. And then when we finish that, he's also talked about many other kinds of triangles as well. And I hope to be able to use some of this material. Starling Hunter has gathered a lot of it. He's been working in triangles for a long, long time, and maybe we'll be able to continue looking at the triangles that we are surrounded by and how to access some of those energies, at least some of them, because they are cosmic and they are systemic, and really they affect our planetary logos. But if they do, there's a chance that some of this energy may come through to us as well. So this is, fairly academic study, and it helps at this point if you're interested in esoteric astrology, because this, we're dealing with about 100 pages here. It's going to take us quite a long time in the Esoteric Astrology book. And then we will look for other triangles references to give us the sense of the immense background of interlocking energies in which we are immersed. So this is meant to expand the mind behind the practical work we do. Of course, in a way, the practical work, of course, is the most important because it fills the etheric body with the energy of love, goodwill, and light. And given our world situation, which is so subject to illusion and glamour and chaotic Maya, he calls it that unthinking emotional mess. That's what he calls it. It's very necessary that we work with bringing soul energy into the etheric body, and that's what the actual triangles work does. But now we're working academically and trying to expand our minds, and this will necessarily take us into the abstract mind. And I just want to welcome you here, Anne, Annette, Bibi, Diane, Eha, Helen, Karen, Lori, Rebecca, Ting Ting, Tuija, and Veronica, and our staff, Brett and Joe. Sometimes we do these in the morning, and later in the year we'll be working in the evening. So let's have a little alignment. And of course, this map shows us the picture of the cosmic physical plane. It's much more articulated in the lower part, where we maybe have some experience, and there's lots of chakras and different factors in the higher part of the chart, but DK didn't really bother to put them in, and I can understand why. But vortices, such as you see on the lower part of the chart, in our customary 18 or 21 subplanes, are also found on the etheric portions of these higher planes until we reach a total of 49 major vortices on the cosmic physical plane, 35 of which make a master, 42 of which make a Chohan of the 6th degree, and 49 of which make a Chohan of the 7th degree. All of that is beyond us, but we're on our way. So we're linked together in our soul-infusing personalities, wherever we may be, in time and space. And we are offering ourselves together as an illumined mind, let us say, a mind that we're attempting to hold steady in the light of these higher considerations. And we hope and trust that soul inspiration will come to us, soul knowledge, soul love, soul sacrificial will, and also that higher type of impersonal apprehension, which is characteristic of the spiritual triad, which is the expression of the monad. So the big picture, the really big picture, which DK is dealing with in these areas, come through the spiritual triad as we build the Antakarana. And, eventually, the monadic energy will make its presence felt at first, perhaps beyond our personal control, and then later at will. So we're trying to learn together. This is the big thing. DK has given us this possibility of really expanding our mind, our understanding, tapping the intuition, seeing the big picture as well as the microcosmic picture. So we will understand more if we can relate the microcosm to the macrocosm and vice versa. Okay. Now, let us begin. And what I'd suggest is that, as we go along, if you have particular questions about what I might be talking about here, and heavens knows what it'll be, it's just whatever comes to mind. then write them down or raise your hand. And we will also have a section right after this where we will deal with your questions, your statements, your observations, whatever. I know this is abstract stuff, and he begins with the big picture, but before you know it, we're going to be into factors which are closer to home. So let's fasten our esoteric seatbelts and go for a little ride here. This is the 7th program in our Science of Triangles. And by the way, I wanted to let you know that work is being done on a treatise on white magic. Video commentaries are being made now. There are 12 of them so far, and a number of them, not all 12, they're up on the Makara website. And you also know that the entire book of Esoteric Astrology with video commentary is up on the website, Makara. And other books are partly written and partly commented upon in the video manner, namely a treatise on cosmic fire that is complete, and the rays and the initiations are complete, is complete. And then Initiation Human Solar is found on Makara, commented on in a written manner. So you have plenty to study, and if you're in the Moria Federation and you are seeking some insights on these matters, we have lots of material, and the amount of material is growing. I'm enjoying very much, when I can actually do it, the commenting on a treatise on white magic. The introduction, which is 50 pages long, is an amazing little document which is foundational to everything that we are studying. So I think he's presenting knowledge about the spirit and the soul and the different kinds of relationships between the chakras and the parts of the body that he just doesn't present elsewhere. So maybe you'd be interested in taking that up and going to Makara and listening to those things and studying along. And if you have study groups or want to create study groups, you can use these commentaries and video commentaries to stimulate thought. Okay, now here we go. And he begins with a fairly, what can I say, not so optimistic picture for us. It is useless for students to attempt to unravel this aggregation of interlacing streams of energy. Oh, goodness. Well, maybe we can't unravel the whole network, but we can isolate certain triangles which have an important effect upon our microcosmic life. But later it will be possible, you know. He says all that is now possible for man with his present equipment is to accept hypothetically these statements anent certain major triangles which affect humanity, and seek to prove their effect. So we are given a task, and he does tell us that we can possibly, reach the experiencing of these energies, and to endeavor to arrive at some understanding of that intricate, interwoven network which he himself possesses and to which he gives the name the etheric body. Now, that's the way we work with the law of analogy. If we can zero in on our own etheric functioning and in a felt manner, and in terms of its intricacy, then maybe we can transfer that kind of understanding analogically or correspondentially to the bigger picture in our solar system, our planet, our solar system, and our local cosmos system. The law of correspondences, he says, is infallible. So those of you, excuse me, who are students of esoteric healing, you have an advantage because you study carefully the interlocking chakra system and maybe can apply it to the larger picture. And just the way the higher mind and the lower mind have to be made into one seamless vehicle. So the triangles above and the triangles below have to be seen as seamlessly interrelated. It's going to take a while for us to do that, but we will persist and we will do it. Okay, so if we can start from the etheric body, and somehow I've got to make this okay, then we may, he says, succeed in proving the accuracy of a statement by the demonstrated quality of the life aspect which we experience. Its conditioning, we are conditioned by these energies, and results in the microcosmic life history and events. In other words, this is an invitation in a way to study astrology and rheology. These great movements with the three great constellations, and especially the Great Bear and the zodiacal intensifications at the different times of the year, and the planetary conduction of these ray and zodiacal energies. All of these things reach us, and they are part of the life aspect, and they all have quality. And if we can feel these things and see how they affect our life circumstances, then we're on our way to making sense of something which would otherwise simply remain an abstraction. So, we can experientially enter the field, you might say. Right. This astrology, this type of astrology that we're dealing with, and remember, astrology is particularly ruled by the third ray, and the third ray is particularly connected with the science of triangles. We understand these three great beings, the Buddhas of activity, and they are strongly on the third ray and having their subdivisions 1, 2, 3. But they are very connected with this science of triangles, and it all seems to, from a practical point of view, end with them in Shambhala, rising to them. And as Tuija is often telling us in the practical part of this work, that our whole network rises to the Buddhas of activity in case of emergency. So, and we're certainly courting emergency in our world at this time. So, can we make sense of our life in terms of these great conditioning energies? That's the question here. This astrology has naught to do in connection with tangible happenings on the outer plane of existence. In other words, we're studying a type of psycho-spiritual astrology, but of course, inner things do work out, and we can trace them. We will, however, will see to it that our effort lies along the line of psychological life history, because the psyche is the origin of all tangible happenings. The soul is the psyche, and without that psyche, we wouldn't even be having our tangibility here on the outer 18 subplanes. So we'll see to it that our effort lies along the line of psychological life history and events, and not particularly along the line of physical occurrences, which will be inevitable. When studying psychosynthesis, Roberto Assagioli, he emphasizes the idea that every single thought has a physical correspondence, and something happens physically, even on a minute level, if there is a thought. So, obviously the physical is being affected very much by the psychological, but the psychological comes first. So, the old saying among astrologers, character is destiny. Is that from Thackeray? Sow a thought, reap a habit. Sow a habit, reap character. Sow character, reap destiny. So from thought to outer manifestation, there is a line, and there will be that working out of our inner psychology into tangibility. But our emphasis is on the psychospiritual. This difference is basic, this psychological versus physical, and must ever be borne in mind. Astrologers have begun to grasp a dim idea of the interlocking triangles. It's really an overwhelming subject. I mean, it's immense. See, everywhere you look, there are triangles of energy and force, and they all have different effects and different interactions. It's a big study. So, just as long as we understand that that is the case, we go forward with it as confidently as we can. Okay, they've begun to, people like us maybe, grasp a dim idea of the interlocking triangles of energy as far as our Earth is concerned. In the rather arbitrary division of the 12 constellations into 4 triplicities. Now, okay, so there are fire signs, there are earth signs, there are air signs, and there are water signs. And there are 3 of each of them. Now, so we're kind of, just according to decision, we're forcing our idea of triplicity upon these natural divisions. But of course, that's just the beginning. And it does make sense too. I mean, we do know the difference between people who have a lot of fire in their horoscope and those who have a lot of earth or a lot of air. It does temperamentally condition you. But of course, the interrelations between these constellations and their eventual signs is much more intricate than just fire, earth, air, and water. But we have to begin somewhere, okay? And the cardinal, fixed, and mutable signs, these are called the quadruplicities. So we have, for instance, the cardinal signs would be, I know you know this, most of you, but just to say Aries, Cancer, Libra, Capricorn. It's a quadruplicity. Those are the cardinal signs. The fixed signs are, and we should be on that fixed cross more and more as we progress. This it's very inviting to go onto the fixed cross because it's said to be the cross of blinding light, fiery pain, bitter woe, and yet we finally get there, liberation. So from sign to sign, we have Taurus, blinding light, Leo, fiery pain, Scorpio, bitter woe, and Aquarius, liberation. Okay. And then mutable signs, which is the cross of humanity, and with lots of Christ energy on it, Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces. So those are the usual divisions that people are aware of, but DK is acquainting us with interactions which are far more intricate and interesting and extensive than what we have so far. So thus, astrologers are dividing up the entire zodiac into a 4-fold group of interlacing and interrelated triads, each conditioned by one of the basic elements and thus qualified: fire, earth, air, and water. It's a there's 4 of these divisions, and they are triadal. So these constitute this fire, earth, air, and water, and basically, look, there's no way to get around it. You've got to memorize the signs, and you've got to memorize the planets. This is just your alphabet, and if we're going to learn anything about the greater science of triangles behind everything we work with in a practical sense, we just have to commit some of these things to memory and learn a little something about their element and their rays and all that kind of stuff. So these constitute a series of basic triangles with a definite reference to our planetary life. Now, DK enters into something that's hard for us to grasp, owing to the constant movement everywhere. Maybe we could call it the law of change or the law of mutation sometimes. It's a perpetual motion in cosmos, owing to the constant movement everywhere, inherent in the solar system and the zodiac. Onward, movement interior, movement revolving. Now, you see, look what he's done here. This is very interesting. He's always thinking with the aspects of divinity in the back of his mind, or with the rays in the back of his mind. By onward, he means the first ray, progress onward. By interior, he means the second, the subjective ray. By revolving, he means the third, rotary motion. So always realize that he has the codes in back of him as he's choosing words. He has these geometrical patterns in his mind as he's choosing the words that he presents to us, and hopefully we get a hold of those patterns. So here's this constant movement, okay? Some idea can be grasped of the intricacy of the entire pattern. Oftentimes he's telling it, look, this subject is too intricate for us to deal with. Okay, but, so what? We're getting the ABCs of the ageless wisdom, and the ABCs are good enough for us right now. And then when we get to be more like he is and study for a few thousand years these things, then we'll get into the intricacies. A further aid to the grasping of this essential beauty of coordinated and organized movement, and someone or something is doing the coordinating. Great lives far greater than we can grasp, cosmic logoi, supercosmic logoi, whatever, they are coordinating and organizing all of this movement, and we just see the movement. Okay, we don't know what they're really doing. They're far too advanced. So grasping this essential beauty of coordinated and organized movement and its power to qualify and condition the entire universal pattern, a sense of this can be gained. Now, by universal pattern, he doesn't necessarily mean the grand entirety of the universe. Universe is one of those words that is applied to different types of concentrations of energy. For instance, our solar system is sometimes called a universe. A galaxy, which is just a minuscule part of the grand entirety, is called an island universe. So watch that word universe and try to see what he means. Here I think he means the solar system. So a further aid to the grasping of this beauty of coordinated and organized movement and its power to qualify and condition the entire, I would say, solar systemic pattern can be gained by those students who have studied somewhat the various triangles to be found in the etheric body of man, as I suggested, through the interrelation of the 7 centers or chakras to which I have referred elsewhere in my various books. So, you know what your chakras are, but do you know how they are triangularly related? Now, let's see, if I were to go to, I'm going to do it this way. Another book, treatise on white and on cosmic fire. Would I find on page 170 or so? Yes, I would. I would find basic triangles found within the etheric body. This is a good reference. The pranic triangle, it's quite primitive. Man controlled from the astral plane. These are the interrelations of triangles which characterize a human being at different stages of evolution. Man controlled from the astral plane, base of spine, solar plexus, heart. Man controlled from the mental plane, base of spine, heart, and throat. Notice the mental throat center is added. Man partially controlled by the solar ego, advanced man, heart, throat, and 4 of the 7 head centers. And their synthesis, the alta major, hence 5. Spiritual man to the 3rd initiation, from the 1st to the 3rd, heart, throat, and the 7 head centers. Spiritual man to the 5th initiation, from the 3rd to the 5th, the heart, the 7 head centers, and the 2 many-petaled lotuses, namely, I suppose, the ajna center and the crown center. So these lists of triangles are very important, and if we study them, we can apply the same to what's going on our planet between the different planetary, what are they called? Chains, different planetary chains and the globes within them. For instance, let's give an idea of this. This is very interesting. And, I'm not saying we can decipher the whole thing, but okay, let's look at it. There. Take a look at that interaction going on in our solar system. All of these lines mean something. And look at all the triangles that are there uniting the different planetary schemes. Now, going even further, if I can find it, there. Now we're on the Earth scheme. We're right down here, in our own planetary area. Look at the different geometry where it is articulated. For the Neptune chain and the Jupiter chain, it's not articulated. But here are very interesting geometrical figures, and they mean something. They all really mean something. The Mercury chain is distinct from the Earth chain, which is very square. And up here, the Mars chain has certain triangularity, and the number 5 is very important for the Venus chain. And look at all the triangles connecting these factors. And don't stop there. Look at the globes. All of these different globes are connected by triangles as well. So if DK, and this is from Cosmic Fire, here, chart number 7, if DK says this whole business is very intricate, it is intricate. And the masters themselves would be studying these interrelations between the planetary globes, the planetary chains, and finally, in the solar system, the planetary schemes. And all of this, you say, well, why do I have to know it? Well, eventually you have to know everything. Eventually we have to become omniscient in terms of our planetary understanding, and then we move on and on and on until one fine day, as has happened forever, we achieve universal omniscience. Okay. All right, so you get the idea. We're into a very, very intricate study, but it can be quite practical, even if you just stop with your sun, moon, and rising sign, an important astrological triangle, or your sun sign, your rising sign, and the point opposite your sun sign, another important one. Or if you just go with your head, your heart, and your throat, a major triangle which the monad controls one way or another depending upon your monadic ray. So, open your mind to the interplay of all of these things and realize that although we have to study them academically at first, eventually they will be living for us, living sources of energy. Okay, so we study our etheric body, and that was my point when I went to page 170 of a treatise on cosmic fire. These centers, I suppose he means the microcosmic etheric centers, when awakened and alive, are swept finally within the radius of each other's sphere of action. Like you're just going to have one big body of light, and all of the chakras are going to be affecting every other chakra. And everything will be related to everything else, and Mercury will have given way to the holism of Jupiter. Mercury links everything up, and Jupiter makes a whole out of it. So I call this etheric holism. Okay. Each other's sphere of action. From the point of view of living energy, the circumference of these wheels, every planet is, every solar system is, every chakra is, the circumference of these wheels or vortices of force becomes so enlarged that they eventually overlap and touch, presenting on a tiny scale a condition analogous to the contacting and interlocking series of triangles referred to above. And the big chakras do the same thing. They eventually swing into each other's sphere of influence, and 3 become 1. It's not just a division, and it's not just a sequence, it's a simultaneous interaction. All right, so behind these concepts of the relation existing in time and space between the constellations of the Great Bear, especially the seven or eight major stars of the Great Bear, the Pleiades, and we're talking about, maybe 1,000 stars there almost, 800 and something of which have been discovered. But, the seven major ones, or the 7 or 9, and the sun Sirius, which may be a blind for the Little Bear, okay? And our solar system, in other words, Great Bear, Pleiades, Sirius, yes, it affects our solar system. But Great Bear, Pleiades, Little Bear, thence to Sirius, thence to our solar system. So there is a definite connection between the Little Bear and the Sirian system, even though Sirius is so close. It's only 8 light years away. And from the point of view of practical occultism and our initiatory work, Sirius is the great, great influence where we find the Greater White Lodge and the Blue Lodge, as it is sometimes called. But watch out for blinds, because sometimes DK gives you just a name of a star, and he means the whole constellation. Like sometimes he gives you the star Betelgeuse, and he really means the entire constellation Orion. And here with Sirius, he might mean the 7 solar systems of which ours is one. That's on page 50 of our astrology book. So, what DK presents is necessarily veiled at certain times, and you have to penetrate that veil, and you can do that as you continually develop the occult mind under the planet Uranus. Under the planet Uranus. You start with Mercury, and you go to Uranus, and then you can penetrate into these things. So behind these concepts of the relation existing in time and space between the constellation of the Great Bear Pleiades and the sun Sirius and our solar system, which we might consider the point of manifestation, there exists, it must be remembered, an immense series of interlocking triangles between the stars which compose these constellations interiorly and our solar system. I mean, you can only imagine, just start with the Great Bear. There's 7 stars there. How many different triangles can you draw between those 7 stars? And, there's a formula for that in mathematics. I don't remember it or know it, but there's a certain number of 3s that you can get out of any 7. And all of them are operative. So you have, therefore, a relationship between the 7 stars composing the Great Bear, the 7 stars composing the major Pleiades, sometimes called the 7 sisters or wives of the rishis informing the lives of the Great Bear. Well, that means that if they're husband and wives, there's going to be an interaction across space between the 7 major Great Bear stars and the 7 major Pleiades. And all kinds of triangles are going to be drawn there, triangles of which we can have presently no idea. DK has said, look, I'm going to present to you just a few. I can't present it all. Once I tried for myself, it took me days, and I went like this. I said, Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Aries, Taurus, Cancer, Aries, Taurus, Leo, Aries, Taurus, Virgo. And I went through all of the possible interlocking triangles of the zodiac, and I tried to give a meaning to every one of those triangles. Now, obviously, some of them were really important, some of them we've never heard of, and some of them are not important to us at this time. But it was just the attempt to think triangularly. I did that also with the signs with the planets, and I have somewhere my daughter transcribed all that. I was just walking in the woods talking about it, and it's somewhere here on my computer, all of the interlocking planetary triangles and their possible rotation, where any star could become the 1, the 2, or the 3 in that triangle. So I'll have to, I have to get that out, and maybe we can even take a look at it if we don't really study it. Anyway, the 7 stars of the Great Bear, the 7 major stars of the Pleiades, and the sun Sirius, which, as I said, can be a blind for the 7 solar systems, of which ours is one. And where you find mention of those 7 solar systems is right here. Our solar system is a heart center in that. So right here in the Esoteric Astrology book on page 50, you see listed Sirius in 2 places in relation to different zodiacal signs, and here is magnetic energy from the 7 solar systems connected with Taurus and Mars and Scorpio, and probably the sacral center, and Sirius is probably one of those, as well as being up here on its own. So this is a very important tabulation, and deals with the creative hierarchies. You say, well, why do I have to learn all this stuff? But occultism is about this. It's the scientific investigation of the multiple energies and forces which are ambient in our local cosmos system, and which definitely have an effect upon our planet and upon our groups, our nations, and upon us as individuals and groups, the way we live. So it's a lot to handle, but DK is the expert in these things. And if we study him carefully over the years and over the lifetimes, because he'll keep writing and offering, then we're going to be in a position to know what's really happening, what's really causing what's the cause behind things. We will know those things rather than just have to say, well, where'd that come from and what is that? And we'll become knowers. And that is the goal of life in the Aquarian age. All right, well, I'll tell you what. There's not much more. Just a little bit more, okay? These, the 7 stars, 7, etc., etc., they compose major triangles of force and are all held within the radius of the life of that great being whose expressed manifested intention is brought into being through the medium of 3 related groups and our solar system. Let's call it the one about whom naught may be said. And if we're looking in the maps that DK has given us, this little one about whom naught may be said, it's an immense being, I think is found right there in that green triangle, okay? Along with 6 other ones about whom naught may be said, in a still greater being, subsidiary to a still greater being, and on it goes. Always a greater being. If you really want to see the map that some good theosophist has made on this, there it is. I mean, you just see these septinates. 7s are turning into 1s, and then again 7, and then a 1, and on and on and on until we have our entire local cosmos. I wouldn't go so far as to say it's the entirety of the whole universe. That would be presumptuous, but at least we get the idea of the aggregations of 7 which create a 1, which is part of a 7 which creates a 1, etc., and on and on. So it's a great universe we're living in, and it's not the only one. It's the well, I like to say it even though it's not accurate. It's the infiniteth universe that has ever occurred. But then every universe that has ever occurred is the infiniteth universe, because you've got a beginningless series of universes coming forth on the great breath. What a world. Okay. So anyway, that great being who works through these beings that we call Great Bear, Sirius, and the Pleiades. As hinted by me in a treatise on cosmic fire, these 4 groups of stars constitute the manifested aspect or personality of a great unknown life. And if you'd like to see where the unknown is found, just go here to Cosmic Fire on page 293, and there's the unknown for us, in whom great constellations are chakras, and in whom cosmic logoi, in which our solar system is just a heart center, are as chakras. So this is on page 293, and it gives the idea of these ascending septinates. All of this part of the, science of triangles. Right. So, Okay, and then I'm asking, is Great Bear the mental body of this being? Well, we're told that is Sirius the astral body, the Pleiades the etheric body? Maybe, but from another perspective, Great Bear is the 7 um, interior head centers of the one about whom naught may be said. Sirius and the little bear are associated with the ajna center of this being, and the Pleiades, maybe the throat center, but maybe the central jewel in the head center of this immense being. All right. There are lots of ones about whom not may be said. All right. I seek in this connection to give only a general picture because with these cosmic triangles, I have no intention to deal. Well, he does, he does, but not in any depth. We will only consider these constellations within the greater zodiac, which are known by astrologers to have a definite effect upon humanity and our planetary life. That makes our study possible. We're leaving out a lot of things, but, our present mind can only grasp so much. So, in studying these triangles, we will make for our guidance certain rules which, under the law of analogy, may facilitate our comprehension and underlying meaning. So I'm going to stop there, and let's see if good. So this is the end of Science of Triangles number 7. Excuse me. Talking a little too much here. Science of Triangles number 7. And this is the academic study. And we're on page 419. And our next work will be another couple of weeks from now. We're going to have the morning schedule for quite a while, every other week. But then, breaking for the conference, to which I hope you can come. All of us at the University of Seven Rays and Moria Federation Seven Ray Institute, we hope you can join us in person at our Love Wisdom conference. It's called the Buddha and the Christ, Radiant Wisdom, All-Pervading Love. Great, great theme, and it'd be great if you could join us there. And here we're going to have the beginning of Science of Triangles number 8, academic study, and we'll start at 419. I don't know where we started over here, and maybe it's not important. But I get a little bit, compulsive about this stuff. So maybe we started on 417. Oh, goodness, we didn't cover a lot, but it is a very big subject, and it's important to understand the context. So here we went from 417 of Esoteric Astrology to 419. All right, friends. So that's enough of that. And let's see if you have any thoughts, any questions about these matters. I know, there we are out there in the cosmos, or even if we're out there in the solar system, that's quite a stretch. And even if we're dealing with our intricate planet, with its chains and its globes, and how many are there? Are there 49? Are there 70? All of these different concentrations of force. But occultism will lead us into that. Don't ever feel discouraged. What the human being has done, the human being can do and will do. So this kind of knowledge, it will come to us, and we will be in a position to impart it to others to improve the quality of their life. So I'm now looking to see whether you have any statements, any questions, any thoughts that you would like to share about this more cosmic picture in which we live and move and have our being. I mean, we're doing that on the planet, the solar system, and the local cosmos. We're living and moving and have our being in ever enlarging spheres of activity. So I look for you, and don't be afraid. Just whatever you want to say. It's up to you. Any question is good. Any statement is good. I'm happy to deal with anything here. Don't feel daunted. I feel daunted all the time, but don't feel daunted. It's a big study, but so what? We'll manage. Anything, folks. Anything you would like to say. Okay. Got to study astrology, of course. It's part of the science of triangles. Right. Who's brave? Any brave souls there? Bravery, can that evoke you? um, I actually, well, you'll have this, Brett will be putting these things up on Makara, and of course, you can have, you'll see the notes where they exist, and it will help to explain a few things, and also my own words should help to explain a few things. Don't worry, the knowledge will seep in. He says, he says, hold the silence and the light will enter in. So I'm looking for some brave soul to come forth and say, well, what about that great bear? The great bear is divided into seven major solar logoi, and they all have a name, and they all have a ray, and they're just immensely greater than our sun, and they're the sort of source of all this ray energy that makes us who we are in our everyday life. Okay. All right. Well, I haven't done well today because I have not stimulated in your thought any questions or any thoughts. I talk too much. We know that. That's what happens when you have Mercury so high in the chart like I do. I guess we all have our destiny to follow. Anyway, look, let me just go on here for a second while I wait to see whether anybody has anything they want to write or add. Master DK, as I've often said, has written one big book. And in a way, you might as well include everything Blavatsky wrote as well, because he was kind of behind that, giving her the charts which she needed. She was an amanuensis for him, his first amanuensis. Alice Bailey, he wrote much more exactingly, and it was his own words, okay? And now we're coming to, will he choose another amanuensis from 2025 onward? Or will he be speaking into a computer? I doubt it. I think an amanuensis as a secretary is much, much better. So there we go. I see. Anyway, I'm coming, Diane. This idea of the mediators who bring through the ABCs of occultism. It's what a job that is. Can you imagine what Alice Bailey, with her sometimes failing health, had to go through, in order to write, what did she say? 7 single-spaced lines, 7 pages of single-spaced type every time she worked with the Tibetan. And what a job. But they had worked that way before, we are told, and when she was a Chela in the light, he was her supervising inner disciple. So, you never can tell. Things start and then they come to fruition later. All right, let's see now. Where is Mercury in your chart, Michael? It's in Aries. At the top of the chart, I have a 4-degree Aries midheaven, and Aries is at 6 degrees on the top of the chart. Sextile Saturn, sextile Uranus, trine Pluto, opposed Neptune, whatever, Mercury is my planet because, we Aries people, at a certain point, we get into the esoteric rulers. So, well, look, Master Decay is sometimes called Mercury, and he's sometimes called Gemini. he had, when you look at him, or at least one of the more authentic looking pictures, looks like he has a lot of Taurus too, which would be right for this kind of immense knowledge that he has. But in terms of communicating, being the messenger, an authenticated messenger of the hierarchy, his Gemini, his Mercury is very, very important. And look who he worked with. Alice Bailey, so strongly Gemini. Foster Bailey, Gemini rising. Mary Bailey, Sun in Gemini. He was, I understand, contemplating a little further work with another one of the disciples of the group, Gemini rising, or at least Sun in Gemini, I forget. But Gemini was really prominent in his work. The head of the cosmic Christ and this great, intelligent, interrelating sign. So now remember, everybody, that you have a personality horoscope, but when your soul took form, or when individualization occurred, wherever it was, whether on the Earth chain or on the Moon chain or somewhere, you have an astrology of your soul. There's an astrology and major sign or signs of your soul nature. And that is going to persist regardless of what your personality horoscope says. And so that gets very interesting. Now, we're not in a position that we can, I think, really detect that, but maybe you can feel something in you, a kind of relation to a certain sign which interiorly and in terms of your soul is the major sign which will persist life after life. Let's just say, somewhere we have it up on Makara, I guess, but the Buddha was given the Sun in Taurus and Pisces rising by the Tibetan. Very, very important. Master Kutumi, Sun in Gemini, Pisces rising. I think with the Christ, the two signs that I find with the Christ are Pisces, the greatest of all the second-ray signs, and Libra, the Prince of Peace, and responsive to the Spirit of Peace, who is in a way, the great second-ray source when you consider the avatar of synthesis, the Spirit of Peace, and the Buddha. Buddha has a third-ray monad, and these other two sources are second-ray and first-ray. So when it comes to the Christ, I don't know whether to say, I think it's Sun in Pisces and Libra rising, something like that, or at least a kind of interior horoscope, which would describe the major gift that the great being is given. When it comes to Master Decay, I expect Taurus and Gemini, just from his picture and from what he does, although it's interesting, a lot of these world savior types, they do have Pisces strong. So every great master is operating through some kind of internal horoscope which persists over centuries. And the same for us. Only, our personality horoscopes come in and out. But there's something fundamental in us in terms of our causal body, our egoic lotus, and that's maybe our major gift, and somehow we're going to have to determine what that is. Okay, Diane, I hope that, Mercury, that's what it is for me. Okay, and Veronica, let's see what you have here. What is the difference between the heart center and the heart center in the head, and where are these in the macro? Okay, it depends on what we call the macrocosmos, but the heart center is between the shoulder blades, and particularly relates to the energy of Buddhi. It is 12-petaled. The heart center in the head, as far as humanity is concerned, is a recipient of monadic energy, and it's right at the very, it depends on how we want to look at the head center. There are all kinds of descriptions of the shape of the head center, but at the very top of the head are these 12 major petals, which are called the heart within the head, and they are particularly connected not only with Buddhi, but with the monadic plane. And maybe well, I don't know. It depends on the advancement of the individual. Maybe the cosmic astral plane could come into the picture if we were a seventh degree initiate. And they have these chakras too, but they built the chakras through the power of Kriya Shakti. So there's a higher sort of receptivity from the heart center within the head, which is tremendously synthetic, and is, uniting all kinds of energies and is far above the personal sphere. And the heart, the actual heart center between the shoulder blades is connected with Buddhi, just the way the head center per se, not the heart in the head, but the head center per se is connected with Atma, says the Tibetan at one point, and I wouldn't be surprised if we also have some kind of logoic thing going on there, just the way I said the cosmic astral plane for very high initiates might touch the fabricated heart center within the head. Now, in the macrocosm, the highest macrocosm we can conceive of, well, let's see. I can go to the one about whom naught may be said, and its heart center within the head is our entire zodiac of 12 constellations. He tells us that. In the one about whom naught may be said, which is our largest knowable, hardly knowable, but somewhat knowable, macrocosm, the entire zodiac is the heart center within the head. Now, where is the heart center in that great being? And I am believing that the constellation Orion with the brilliant star Betelgeuse is a good candidate to the heart center of this huge being. Right. Stacy, okay, well, where do we go? Well, you got to get in. Well, okay, this is it. You have to read chapter 10 in a treatise on white magic. And don't worry about being caught up with the group. We're all beginners. I'm a beginner. Everybody's a beginner. We're a beginner when it comes to these things. So just have beginner's mind and just get into it with confidence. What the human being has done, the human being can do. Read chapter 10 in a treatise on white magic, and then dare to read Esoteric Astrology from beginning to end. Okay? That's going to be your book. And if you want to listen to my own thoughts about it, after you've read a little bit, then just go to Makara, and I've got a bunch of programs there, word for word, sentence by sentence, of esoteric astrology from beginning to end. It'll take a few years. But, just get into it. It's okay. Don't worry about time. Time doesn't really exist. It only seems to exist. And we've been through this forever. How many times have you graduated from a universe? How many times has the universe graduated from itself? This is old hat, so we always win in the long run. So just, slowly begin connecting all the things. Read Esoteric Astrology, and which I'm sure, there's some of us in this group right now who have not read it cover to cover. I'm sure. And then read chapter 10 of a treatise on white magic, and those are your major astrological references and have a lot to do with the science of triangles. Meanwhile, we're working through a section of esoteric astrology which begins around page 404 in the science of triangles. It'll take us a while, and don't worry when stuff goes over your head. Just reserve judgment. You've heard it, and it'll all start to link up before long. Don't worry. Okay, you bet. So thank you to Anne Veronica. Look, just imagine what's in Master DK's mind. I mean, he is the expert when it comes to the ray, on our planet anyway, when it comes to the ray energies, the astrological energies, and the energies of the creative hierarchies. That's where he excels, and in a way knows more than any of the members of the hierarchy. I'm not talking about, those who are in Shambhala. That's a different matter. Obviously, the planetary logos, Sanat Kumara, his extension, it's a whole different level of knowledge that such great beings have. But when we're talking about those who have recently been a human being, and if Master DK is still a master of the 5th degree, he still belongs to humanity. Still belongs to humanity. A Chohan of the 6th degree, of them, DK says, they are no longer men as are the masters. So we're moving into the planetary lives and all that by the time we get to that. But if you're a master, your symbol is the 5-pointed star, and you are still a human being, and he's a great expert in that. So Rebecca is asking me here, please describe your understanding of the law of analogy as per the quote you have shown on your screen. Well, look, the law of analogy compares systems in a general way regarding their structure. We say X is like Y, and we say, okay, the throat center is like Saturn, the function of Saturn. But the law of analogy is a general law, and it basically tries to find the commonalities between systems. Now, if you go into Cosmic Fire, what does he do? He compares, it really gets intricate sometimes, and then it's another law operative. He compares the solar logos to the planetary logos, to man, to the atom of substance. And he finds similarities in their structure, but in a general way. Now, a refinement of the law of analogy is the law of correspondences, which is an intensification of the law of analogy. It's much more precise, and it's actually looking for the actual functions of every part in a system and trying to draw a more precise connection to the same type of unit in a lesser or a greater system. So he tells us it's the law of analogy followed by a more detailed work with the law of correspondences is the great interpretive law of the system. Look, if I have a heart, the planetary logos has a heart. The solar logos has a heart, maybe represented by the planet Jupiter. And the cosmic logos has a heart, which is our sun. So I'm just looking for a category, and I'm finding it in every one of these systems. So it's one system compared to another under the law of analogy. And if you really want to get detailed about it, you use the law of correspondences. I hope that helps us. Everything that's found in man, a heart, a head, the lungs, every part of the body is found in the greater beings also. And we have to identify what they are. Now, I've done that a little bit with planets, it turns out we have a base of the spine center. It's fully functioning by the time we're a 5th degree initiate. In our solar system, the solar logos has a base of the spine center too, doesn't it? And it's the whole planet Earth. That's the analogy, see? And there's going to be some solar system out there. I don't know what it's going to be. Maybe Aquila, the eagle rising, I don't know, which is the base of the spine center in the 7 local solar systems. And there's going to be some cosmic logos who is the base of the spine center of the great being we call the one about whom not may be said. And what is that? It's the constellation Draco, the dragon, weaving its way between the big bear and the little bear. That great constellation is the base of the spine center of the one about whom not may be said. So that's what we mean by analogy, looking at the different systems and finding similar parts in the different systems. And, just begin to think that way. Just look at yourself. If I've got a triangle going on between my head, my heart, and my throat, what is that in the planet? What is that triangle in the solar system? What is that triangle in the local cosmic logos? That's how you think analogically. Hope that helps a little bit. Probably more and better could be said. Okay. Anything else, friends? I'm glad, look, just, I'm glad, ask anything, it's okay. One can always make the attempt, and if we got it wrong, then we will be corrected as time goes on. I always say about my own estimation of things, according to my present level of ignorance, thus I conceive. Okay, Vera. Go ahead, Vera. Yeah.
There is a correspondence between the sacral chakra and the throat chakra, and I am not sure if I am remember correctly. Is there a correspondence, similar one, between solar plexus and ajna, solar plexus sort of personality center, and the ajna? It is a sort of like a working chakra of the integrated personality.
There is a triangle involved with solar plexus, heart, and ajna, and it's in one of the meditation 2 in the 6 meditations which DK gave in Discipleship in the New Age. The correspondence, however, or the interaction is between the solar plexus and the heart. And that is found at the second initiation. So at the first initiation from the sacral center to the throat, second initiation from the solar plexus to the heart, which incidentally Alice Bailey was recapitulating that as far as I know. You saw her move from being a fiery sixth ray preacher into a great inclusive second ray occultist. So she went through a certain phase, and that was operating for her. And then at the third degree begins the rising of the base of the spine center to the top of the head, but the ajna center is a synthetic center and integrates many things along the way. In other words, if you're a third degree initiate, your ajna center is going to be a great integrating center of all your energies. And if you are a fifth degree initiate, the serpent is going to come over the top of your head, and the head center will be stimulated, but it will focus right here in the ajna center, and you'll be directing all of those integrated energies of the entire energy system from your ajna center. So the ajna center per se does not have that kind of correspondence that we are talking about, where 2 of them are listed together. But it is integrating everything with its 96 petals. And its fourfold nature, basically a fourfold nature and then 96 petals. And then, yes, if you go into Discipleship in the New Age, Volume 2, you will find at the second initiation, the DK gives you a meditation in which you involve the solar plexus, heart, and ajna. So there is a triangle involved. And probably the ajna is involved in many triangles, as I was just showing from page, whatever it was, 170, right, of A Treatise on Cosmic Fire, right? Let's see if I'm going back there and see where the ajna comes in. It's going to be involved in triangles, but not in the sense of this rises to that at the first, this rises to that at the second. And by the way, the base of the spine to the top of the head, not complete until the fifth initiation. Yeah. Okay. So here is, here are the ajna centers found somewhere here. And basically you're correct. The integrated personality depends upon the ajna center, but the bringing in of the energies of the spiritual triad later also depends on the ajna center. So there are higher and lower functions of the various centers. And just because the center is operative doesn't mean it's operating in its highest nature. Okay. Interesting, I think, Okay, thank you. Thank you, Vera. Always interesting questions. All right. Anything else, folks, before we have just a little... Wait a second. I just want to make sure I catch you. Because, yeah, there have been questions here, and I've got the question thing open. Look, it's a big jigsaw puzzle. There's a lot to fill in, piece by piece. And every piece that's put in place attracts or is, intuitively realized as relating to another piece or constellation. We're just filling in the picture. Be patient with yourself. If I were to compare what I think I know to what Master DK knows, I could become depressed or something. What do I know? Nothing. But I know that what the human being has done, the human being can do. So we're on our way, all of us, to eventual planetary omniscience, to eventual solar systemic omniscience, and eventually, omnipotence, omniscience, omnipresence in a universal sense. That's the destiny of every unit of life. There is only one being. It is omnipotent, it is omniscient, it is omnipresent, and we're it. So, that from that point of view, we can be happy about the great adventure we're on and not become discouraged with what we don't yet have, because basically not only do we have everything, but we are everything, and that will be proven to us along the way. This is the whole purpose of this identify as being group, because being is the big thing. It's everything, and that's us. Okay. All right, friends, look, just a little now, like I say when Tuija is leading the triangles meditation on Wednesdays, we go into it, far more deeply, and with the music and the images and all that. So, that's important, and satisfying. But now let's just, as we close, let's just have, where am I? Who am I? Okay. Let's just have a picturing of the, however you want to do it, of the triangles network of people on our planet, getting ever brighter on all the continents: North America, South America, Europe, Africa, Asia, the Indo-Chinese area, Australia, New Zealand, getting brighter and brighter. That whole network getting brighter and brighter. And one day, 100,000 triangles or more will be existing triangles of high quality, and then, as we have heard, DK has said, it'll all turn around. Human evolution. And our little network of triangles, let's spend a few moments reviewing who's in that, and we'll want to relate it to the larger group of triangles. So, just send love and goodwill and light through your network of triangles. Just imagine your little network. Just send the love of the soul, the light of the soul, through your little network. And we try to do this with, as DK says, intensity of purpose and depth of love. And somewhere I thought I read intensity of feeling too. I have to find that reference. But every day, we are related to the soul-infusing personalities with whom we are working the triangles process. And thence, all of us to the greater network. And then within the planet itself, just imagine for a brief moment the different globes that are interrelated on different levels of the cosmic physical plane, and the different chains here on our Earth scheme, the different chains that are interrelated triangularly, and suppose we went out into our solar system, the different planetary schemes that are interrelated. Let's say, I'll give you an example. Neptune, Jupiter, Venus. A triangle so important at the second initiation. So all these lines, triangular lines, are existing between the planetary logoi and maybe the sun. Solar logos forms a point with two other planetary logoi. It's intricate, but all interrelated increasingly as our solar logos advances. And then we go to our 7 solar systems, of which ours is one. And let's just say there's a triangle, for example, between our sun, Sirius, and the star Procyon. Big dog, little dog, and our sun. But the general idea is what is important. These 7 solar systems have all these triangles connecting them. And then let's take it a little further. Here we are in our supercosmic local logos, and constellations are the chakras, and they are interrelated, just the way the chakras are in our own etheric body. And we could keep going. The idea is always look for triangles, big and small, and cultivate the triangles in your own etheric body until it becomes one radiant flame of light, I guess, body of light, a unified body. And we will advance trying to help our planet become a sacred planet by converting the square-like etheric structure of the planet into a triangular structure. And our little triangles networks will help do that. Okay, and we will together then, to close off our work today, sound the great invocation. So I'll sound it out loud, and you can put yourself on self-mute, and you can sound it out loud where you are. And that way, it'll be clear. When you all try to sound together, the timing of GoToMeeting doesn't allow it. From the point of light within the mind of God, let light stream forth into the minds of men. Let light descend on earth. From the point of love within the heart of God, let love stream forth into the hearts of men. May Christ return to earth. From the center where the will of God is known, let purpose guide the little wills of men, the purpose which the masters know and serve. From the center which we call the race of men, let the plan of love and light work out, and may it seal the door where evil dwells. Let light and love and power restore the plan on earth. Thank you, everybody. And tonight, at our 5 p.m. GMT schedule, there will be the Dissipation of Glamour webinar. We've been working on the glamour of mistaking the part for the whole. And then tomorrow in the evening schedule, Tuija will be offering the Soul of Nations. We are reviewing now the nations we have studied and invoking the soul of them in groups of 10 or 11 or so. And then Sunday, attracting money for hierarchical purposes, very important. That will also be on the evening schedule, and we'll let you know about other webinars as they're coming up from our little TV station here. It's turning out to be. So thank you very much for attending this morning, and pretty soon Brett will have this up on Makara, and if you wish to, you can review it, because it's not going to sink in with just one pass. It hasn't quite sunk in for me yet, and I've been at it for 50 years. So anyway, let's just study, meditate, serve. All right, lots of love to everybody. Thank you for being here. All the best to you. And tonight we'll continue on the 5 p.m. schedule, and then on the evening schedule for the Ask program Saturday and Sunday. Bye-bye for now, and all the best to you. See you. Bye-bye.